I've got the latest information on the heavy rain and that tropical disturbance trying to develop right over the greater Antilles and an active weather pattern and potential tropical activity next week. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi everyone, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo on this Thursday afternoon. Hope things are going well for you. Coming up, we're going to get into what's happening with this tropical disturbance trying to develop right over the greater Antilles. That moisture still coming in, the potential for the heavier rain, and then an active weather pattern setting up next week, trying to give some of you that have been so hot and dry some relief, but it could come in the form of a tropical disturbance. We'll get into that. Thank you so much for liking the video here. Thank you for tuning into Meteo Mundo. If you saw, I did an update earlier today on this tropical disturbance, and you should expect more of that from me here at Meteo Mundo as we get into the beginning of hurricane season, as we go through the heart of our active weather season. Look for more and more video updates, sometimes multiple times a day, and of course, using the technology here at Meteo Mundo, the opportunity to go live, to do our live stream, to track tropical storms and hurricanes for you in real time. We'll start off with what's happening right now, again, in the greater Antilles and with this area of low pressure trying to develop. You can clearly see there's a bit of a twist here in the enhanced satellite imagery just east of Cuba, just kind of northwest of Haiti, and just to the south of the Turks and the Caicos. So we're spinning around some moisture, and you see that intense lightning right now. That to me is a very clear sign that there's a lot of instability near the surface, and that's kind of some of the first things we look at here as that low tries to develop. Now, it's still very broad in nature, but just a ton of lightning there in eastern Cuba near where that center is trying to form. It's also wrapped around enough moisture that we've seen a few showers and storms develop over Jamaica this afternoon. So you can thank that low trying to get going, Jamaica, for some of the rain that you've seen. It's still been pretty spotty, but there's been some decent lightning as well over places like Ocho Rios, just north of Mandeville and Maypen. Looks like Kingston at least saw the opportunity for a shower. It's been a little bit drier west, so still spotty in Jamaica, but at least we're seeing a little bit of rain there. And the opportunity for an additional shower or storm will continue in that area at least for a time. Now off towards the east where the moisture is, again, still much richer and deeper in nature, we continue to see a very active day throughout Hispaniola, waves of rain, a few showers and storms in the area here. And again, it's just turned wetter the deeper into this Thursday that we've gone. Santo Domingo had a good thunderstorm over the area. Those greens are some really moisture-laden air. Punta Cana right now seeing some showers, and a lot of the Dominican Republic just in and out of showers throughout the day. Still no flash flood warnings or watches. It's good news. So far, we've been able to handle the rain. And relatively speaking, overall, it's been a little bit lighter in nature. It's been more consistent in Hispaniola compared to areas off towards the east, but there's still more to come, guys, and moisture feed is still moving in. Now you get off towards the east, and we have had a break for today. I will say it's drier in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands than I expected through at least this time on Thursday, but as we get into Thursday night and overnight into Friday, I do expect more rain to develop. Someone from St. Croix who watches us actually emailed me and told me they had some power problems yesterday. So hopefully we're restoring all the power issues here. It just always seems like whenever any kind of system moves over these areas, there's some power problems. So hopefully they're back up to 100%, because again, you can still see there's a ton of moisture still to feed into this area. When I switch over to the water vapor imagery, you can see some of that at the upper levels, and then at the lower levels, it's even clearer to see that we're still going to be riding in some moisture here. And it might be even a little bit more prominent, again, back into the Dominican Republic, but through the ABC Islands, this will continue to be fed in. So we'll take the break as we can get it, and hopefully that drops the potential flood threat as we get into Friday and into the weekend. It's been a relatively quiet forecast here through the Leeward Islands. Again, I'm not as concerned for flash flooding here, but we'll still see the potential for some downpours in the area. And it's been spotty in nature for today. Some of this cloud coverage is indicative of a few showers that have developed over the northern side of the Leeward Islands. As we get off towards the south here, Guadeloupe and Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, Barbados has had some rain for today. They've caught one of those passing showers. But again, it's very area dependent. There's just not a lot of concentrated rain, and it gets drier back down towards places like Trinidad and Tobago. We'll take a look at your temperatures coming up in just a second. Over the ABC Islands, we've had a few downpours. It hasn't been very concentrated yet. Brisk east winds, obviously still very hot when it's not raining, but just look off to your south and to the west. Look at this surge of moisture coming off the mainland. Ton of lightning with that. Hopefully some of this goes over the ABC Islands to cool you down, give you some of the relief from the heat and from some of the very dry weather. You certainly have a better chance for some downpours over the next couple of days. In Belize and other areas of Central America, we are high and dry, guys. We'll look at your temperatures here coming up. But again, if I switch back over to the water vapor imagery, clear as day, the reds are the dry conditions across the area. And you can see it's dry over the Bahamas as well. Let's take a look at temperatures here. So let me switch these on. I want to look at something with this area of low pressure that's trying to develop here. So as I look at this, okay, and I'm going to just kind of illustrate what I'm seeing here. You can start to see those winds. Let me make sure I get the telestration on real quick. Give me 1 second. So you can start to see what's happening here. You've got this kind of twist with the winds, okay? And you can look at that because this reporting station should have a northeast wind. Montego Bay should have a northeast wind of some kind. And then Kingston should have more of a south or southeast wind. Yeah, it's a southeast wind. And then these areas here in Cuba should also have more south winds. Let's see here. And they do, okay? And then towards Port-au-Prince, that would probably be more of an easterly breeze as well. So you can see there's your twist, and our reporting stations are showing that. The winds are not significant as of yet, but we're just starting to see the beginnings of that formation. So again, as I look at things, I wanted to kind of show you what I look at when I'm taking a look at those systems. So we'll finish that off here. But again, so you can see that, and temperatures obviously aren't horrible in this area. When I go out to the broad perspective here, and I'll do that right now, and throw those temperatures back on for you, it's a different story in a lot of other locations, especially in Central America. These are your actual air temperatures right now. San Ignacio up to 104, Belize City over 100. It's about the same situation for our friends in Belmopan. It's an extremely hot day throughout Belize. How about we take a look at your feels like temperatures, which again, look at Belize City, 108. Dangerous heat. Try and stay indoors. We'll try and get you some relief later next week. But this is exceptional heat through the Yucatan. Even Cancun and Cozumel feels like temperature is above 100. Same thing for the Cayman Islands. Basically, what you've seen is what you've got. We've had a couple of little storms develop there just to the east, but again, there's not much rain in Honduras and Nicaragua. It gets a little bit more significant back towards Panama. And again, the ABC Islands, when we haven't had the rain, look at these feels like temperatures right around 105, but I hope that that core gets over you guys. So just wanted to talk real quick about, again, where the heat is. It's still steamy through the Leeward Islands, down towards the Windward Islands. Again, Trinidad hit 105 for a feels like temperature. Barbados, you can see here, they actually were a little bit cooler when they were reporting. And there's been a few showers. You see Barbados there at 80 as far as a heat index, so that's not bad. And you can see the temperatures come down a bit over St. Lucia as well. It's all indicative of a little bit of rain, and we've had some spotty showers, as I've mentioned, over the Leeward Islands. So as we get into the forecast for what I expect from that developing low and that moisture, we still need to talk about the areas that could still be impacted by flooding. My main concerns are Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. Not as concerned now for the Leeward Islands and the Turks and the Caicos, just because you haven't had a ton of rain, or I don't expect you to get much more. And in the case of the Turks and the Caicos, there could still be some active downpours. The Leeward Islands, more than likely, I think are going to be in the clear as far as any real flood threat. All right, so let's loop this up over the next 5 days. We'll talk about this system in earnest, and then we'll get into that change in the weather pattern in the forecast for next week. So again, what's going to play out, first of all, for the areas that could still see some flooding? Well, again, it's ongoing rich tropical moisture moving into the area. So you can see that. We'll start off with what's happening in Hispaniola, then move across the island chain. Again, let me just make sure everyone can see the island by getting myself out of the way. And again, we could see these showers kind of dissipate a bit in Hispaniola overnight, but we'll fire them back up at least for a time as we get into our Friday, our Saturday, and our Sunday. Again, it's all about waves of rain and how rich that moisture is. It's going to be a little bit more spotty, which is why, again, I'm not as concerned. But even towards the end of this forecast, I want you to notice there's another surge of moisture coming in early next week. So we might be able to avoid flooding in this first round, but it's all about another active pattern coming in, guys. We'll talk more about it here, but early next week, another surge of tropical moisture off the mainland could move right back into these same areas. The bottom line is it's a wet pattern. So again, we just want to avoid the flooding. We're not going to avoid the downpours and the lightning. So you get the idea that over the weekend here for Santo Domingo and Punta Cana, you should expect some wet weather to continue. As I mentioned for the ABC Islands, for Puerto Rico and the British and the U.S. Virgin Islands, the weather pattern stays active again as well. So right now, a lot of that rain is off towards the west. We picked up on that. Some of the showers will try and drift back over the area here as we get overnight. And then as we get into our Friday, the 24th, here comes more rain coming in. So a better chance for more pronounced showers and a few storms tomorrow. Then as we get to the weekend, it might be a bit more spotty, right? Saturday and Sunday could be a bit more spotty, but still some downpours. And then as we get into Monday, here comes this next surge of moisture, okay? Coming right back in from the same areas. I'll show you that right here. Look at that moisture coming right back in through the ABC Islands, which is one reason why I think the ABC Islands will have a better chance for some rain. Some of this moisture could get down towards Trinidad and Tobago. We're going to have some scattered rain through the Leeward Islands, guys. There's nothing extremely concentrated over the next 5 days, but this southeast surface wind and that moisture axis moving a little bit farther off towards the east should induce a better opportunity from showers and storms from Anguilla all the way down to Trinidad and Tobago. There's nothing, again, that's going to be very concentrated to track, but afternoon showers are absolutely possible. Now you can see that the Turks and the Caicos will start to get out of the rain as this system pulls up to the north and to the east. So what's that going to do? Well, I'm going to let this run one more time and then we'll go back into it and then take a look at the wind field. So first of all, it remains relatively sloppy in nature. There's only a 10% chance that this does develop, okay? But it is certainly going to pass close enough to our friends into Bermuda to provide some squally weather. The winds are going to pick back up, and you can see that begin to kind of dissipate as it moves into cooler waters, more shear, more unfavorable environment. So there's only a 10% chance we get Alberto out of this. And even if it does have a name to it, it would more than likely be a subtropical system. But again, you can see this huge moisture feed associated with this that goes back down well into the Caribbean. So there's still going to be a tie to our area as this pulls away. When we take a look at the winds out of this, I'll switch over to our surface winds and put that into motion. We'll start to see, again, there be a little bit more of a twist. And again, if you live in Bermuda, you should expect to see, you know, good winds here as we get into the end of the weekend and early next week. We'll talk more about the specifics coming up, but I would certainly be in store for some 30 or 40 knot winds if this gets close enough. And again, you can clearly see it here on the GFS model, right in the heart of where the Hurricane Center has this outline to potentially try and wrap up a little something. Right now, again, it's just kind of very broad, nothing much as far as that wind goes, but it tries to ramp up a little bit more right there tomorrow. We can see that tomorrow. So we'll see how that plays out here. But again, very squally conditions through that area. So again, the rain is going to be something that we'll have to deal with here. So let's switch over to the amount of rain that I expect to see. And again, if I'm not talking about your area here rain-wise, it means you're not going to get much more. One other area to point out, we mentioned the ABC Islands, would be Jamaica. Again, it's spotty activity here. As that moisture moves away, I think you're just down to an isolated shower or storm in the afternoon hours. But areas off towards the west, there's really not much to talk about as far as rain goes. So let's take a look at the total precipitation here over the next 5 days and how significant it could be. Still, I believe the GFS model is underdoing actually some of these totals. So again, it still paints on 1.5 to 2 inches of rain over portions of Jamaica. That would be not bad at all. Obviously, we don't want too much rain here through the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Port-au-Prince, maybe an inch or two. You know, I'm getting some 3 to 3.5 here. It just depends on the area. But again, I believe that this model is underdoing it. The National Weather Service out of San Juan is actually talking about 3 to 4 or 4 to 6 inches of rain, depending on where you are in Puerto Rico. You notice that we do not have that on the GFS model. I'm going to show you the European models totals coming up. St. Croix, 1.5 inches. Vieques, Esperanza area, 1.5 inches. Culebra, about the same. I just think it's underdoing the overall activity. It's trying to really push it a little bit farther to the north. We'll see how it plays out. Again, it's certainly been drier than what I've expected so far. The northwest side there of the Lesser Antilles is not bad. It still tries to bring in this moisture over Dominica and Martinique. Our friends there wouldn't mind it. Barbados, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, over 1 inch of rain. It will get wetter later in the period for Trinidad and Tobago, where we could have a 1/2 inch to 1 inch of rain. And again, my friends in the ABC Islands, I'm hoping that you get a little bit more as well. The European model, as far as the rain in millimeters, focused on the Greater Antilles, will show you a little bit more. Again, it's down a bit from where it was, still focused on eastern sides of the Dominican Republic, portions of Puerto Rico, where they could maybe get 50 to 75, maybe up to 100 more millimeters of rain. Again, that's additional rain than what has fallen here. But again, that opportunity will persist in that area over the next few days. Lighter amounts towards the west, towards Jamaica, lighter amounts towards the east, the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands, and portions of the Leeward Islands. But just to show you again that the European model has a little bit more concentration of heavier rain. But we'll see if it's just not enough every day where we can avoid that opportunity for flooding. That is still going to be the main threat. Otherwise, some of that rain won't be that bad. Okay, so that's the scenario with what I'm going to be monitoring over the next couple of days. Let's get into this big pattern change that I'm looking at here as we get into next week. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that cone because we're not going to worry about that. First of all, when I zoom out, we do have a tropical wave in the Atlantic Basin. I'm not concerned about that one. It's going to be moving into some drier air. We still have the Saharan dust layer, but I do want to focus in on this active band of weather, okay? Right here at that 10-degree latitude line. If you remember me mentioning this yesterday, the European model had so much active weather right along this 10-degree line. And that activity is trying to lift a little bit more to the north. And what's going to end up happening is we're going to get a pattern change here in the Caribbean. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, we're still going to have one more slug of moisture coming back into Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and the Leeward Islands. You can see that here. So again, today is the 23rd. So the Tuesday, you can see that next round coming in Tuesday into Wednesday, maybe Thursday. But after that, as we get towards the end of May and early June, look what happens with the development in the Southwest Caribbean. Rather than moving north, it moves north and west. And now we try and pull some of this moisture over Central America, over Jamaica, over the Cayman Islands, and eventually over the Yucatan. We're going to try and give you guys some relief. Now, we're still at least 8 days away, maybe even closer to 10 or 11. So the ongoing heat and drought conditions in Central America will continue at least for the next week. But I do see this pattern change. And again, could there be a spin up as this tries to develop? Well, let's take a look at our wind gusts here. I'll get that off again as well. And when I loop this up, we're going to have a lot of wind energy coming through the Caribbean. We're still going to have our strong easterly winds. At this point in time, again, I don't see a lot of wrap up with that energy moving north and west. As I've mentioned several times, just off the coastline of Panama and Costa Rica, we kind of have a void in the wind. And that is where the European model tries to pick up some development. So we may not get Alberto out of the system that we have trying to develop over the Greater Antilles this week. Could we maybe get it next week? It's a possibility. Again, we are going to be moving into early June and the start of hurricane season. So in this area, now you have the European model going back high with the chance of development. You're looking at 40 to 50% there off the northwest coast of South America, just north of Panama and Costa Rica there. And again, that's amplified. And you notice that all of this potential development is on a west to east axis right along that 10-degree latitude line. There it is right there, guys. That 10-degree latitude line, very active. Even a little potential disturbance just east of Trinidad and Tobago. It just keeps things extremely active along that line late next week and into early June. So that's a situation that I'm going to really be monitoring closely for us here. But again, if nothing else, we're trying to surge that moisture north and to west into areas that desperately need it. Friends, you know you can follow us through all of social media, Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, mymeteomundo@gmail.com. You can send me a picture or video. If you have a specific question about the forecast, drop it in the comments section below. Thank you so much for liking this video. If you've been looking for your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, you found your home, click that subscribe button right now. You know, I'll keep you updated. I'll have the latest tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and I'll see you soon, friends, right here at Meteo Mundo.